I have something super huge that I've been working on for 2 years, and let me introduce to you the Rolling Wrench Beast Mode Tuner and Rev Limiter Delete. This tuner slash Rev Limiter Delete works for all Yamaha Zumas, 50cc and 125. It also works for the Yamaha Vino 50, this is the EFI version, and the Yamaha C3. Let me show you exactly what this thing does. It's pretty sweet. This is what to expect when you purchase your brand new Beast Mode EFI tuner. You'll get the tuner, of course, and the wiring loom with the attached fuel injector connector. This is a plug and play, no splicing wires at all. And then you've got your Rev Limiter Delete wire. This is supposed to be 100% plug and play. But there are a few models that is not plug and play. You'll have to splice into your Rev Limiter Delete wire. Now we're working towards making every single model that way, but for now there are some models that you'll need to use this splice connector that comes in the kit. So check the website for your model to make sure you're comfortable with that. On the tuner, this will control the fuel. All of the fuel. You can raise the fuel or lower the fuel from 500 RPM all the way up to 15,000 RPM in each 500 RPM increments. Super sweet. So say you want to delete your rev limiter, but you're scared to rev it too high. No problem. Delete the rev limiter with this wire. Hop in here. Choose the RPM in which you want the rev to activate, the rev limit to activate, and then you just lower the fuel in that section. I'm going to show you how to install this, and I'll give you an in-depth review of how to use all of this. I want to show you a screenshot that I have on my phone from a Zuma 125, completely stock, to start, 56 miles per hour. That's what you get out of a stock Zuma 125. Maybe you got more, maybe you got less. The bottom line is our stock Zuma did 56 miles per hour from the start. With the Beast Mode installed, no fuel adjustments whatsoever, only installed with the Rev Limiter Delete, we're able to do 67 miles per hour. That's an 11 mile per hour increase just by plugging that sucker in. Your results may be a little different depending on your weight, terrain, other modifications, things like that, but here's a general idea on what to expect. So these are our numbers for our 76cc Big Boy C3. So that means that we had 76cc big bore kit in it. We have the gears, taller gears, things like balls to the wall basically. 49.3 miles per hour. That's where we were at. It won't go any faster than 49 because it's bouncing off the rev limiter. Then we installed the Beast Mode into the C3 and we instantly gained just shy of 17 miles per hour more. Now all of these tests, they were done downhill, balls to the wall, just to prove a top speed. It'll be different obviously on a flat, but I want to be transparent. Now on a stock 50cc, your numbers aren't going to be this great because we've got this 76cc big bore kit in it. It's a little different, but you will increase your top speed for sure. Now as time progresses, I'll publish on the website, link in the description, other numbers that other customers have got with their units. But keep in mind that all of the numbers that I'm sharing with you are not a direct, this is what you're going to get out of your bike, because there's so many different factors that factor into this. You're going to have, different engine mileage, which contributes to wear, other modifications, your weight, your altitude, the terrain. These are just examples of kind of what to expect. So you can't hold these numbers to us. These are purely examples. Anytime you increase the performance, this is a performance product, you're going to decrease the reliability of your machine. That goes for any engine. Anytime you increase performance, you decrease the reliability. So do this at your own risk. I personally have been running this tuner, testing it for 2 years now with no issues. Install the Beast Mode at your own risk. As you can see, I removed the right side cover on this Yamaha C3. It's definitely not necessary, but it sure makes life easier. Not to mention it's a lot different for a Zuma versus a Vino, removing those covers. So look up your service manual if you want to remove one of those covers to get to your wiring. It's not too difficult, but I'm not going to cover that in this video. As you can see, I have our beast mode tuner plugged into its wiring loom. On the other end of the wiring loom, you've got two connectors. The orange wire is going to control removing the rev limiter. That's the function of that. The other set of wires, yellow, red, and blue, that is your fuel injection wire. That's going to plug in line with your fuel injector. All of the models will be plug and play on that. There will be, depending on your model, different plug style connectors that may not look like this, but your Q is yellow, red, and blue is the injector plug. A lot of the models are going to come with this plug for the rev limiter delete. However, there are a few models on the market right now that share the same plug for both. The reason why we include this T connector and we don't have it plug and play is because we don't want you to plug the wrong wires into the wrong spot. So we figure that's the most bulletproof thing right now. So please keep in mind, just because the plug looks like this in the video, your injector plug may look a little different. Same with your rev delete wire. You may have to tap in and it may look a little different. As time progresses, we may make changes in the way that these plug in. Check the website for that, but for now this is the way it goes. So step one is to locate that fuel injector plug. Now, I know that this is a fuel injector plug because, well, first cue is it's got a red and orange wire coming out of it, and that red and orange wire goes back to the throttle body. This wire is coming directly back from the throttle body, and it has the red and orange wire coming out the back of it. A lot of times the injector plug, like this one, is going to be blue. In this case, it's not. To unplug that, you're simply going to push this little button down and pull it off, just like that. Super easy. Some won't have this extra wire, and you'll go directly to the injector. But the bottom line is you want to plug in line with the injector from the beast mode tuner. So remember, this is our injector connector because it's blue, red, and yellow. It's very simple. Plug this in line, just like this. That goes there. This goes here, just like that. Now the only thing we have left for the install is this orange wire and the ground wire. And now we're looking for a stator plug. It's going to look something like this. Two plugs. One will have two white wires going through it, just like this one. And then the other one will look just like what's on our tuner, this wire. The indication will be there's two white wires going into it. One has a red tracer, the other one has a blue tracer. You see that? However, your plug may look a little bit different than this. It may look like this, exact same thing. See, we didn't make this plug with two exact connectors because we don't want you to get it wrong. So if you've got this type of connector right here at your plug where there's two white wires, one with a blue tracer, one with a red tracer, you're going to need to hardwire it with one of these guys. In this case, we don't have that. So we're just going to unplug that and plug this in line. Now don't be fooled when you're looking for this connector, because if you look back here, we've got a brown one and a green one. These are signal wires. They don't have white wires behind them, so don't plug those in. Make sure we're looking for the correct wires. White with the blue stripe, white with the red stripe. Once you've located your connector, it's very, very simple. Just push down on this button. It's like a little button. Pull. Super easy. This is just going to plug in line. Just match up the plugs, just like this. Push. Grab the other one. Push. And now this wire, this orange wire, is in line with the pickup coil on the stator. Now, if you don't have this plugged, let me show you what we need to do. So I'm going to unplug this. Plug it back in. And you're left with this wire. If you don't have these type of plugs, then simply right behind the black shrink wrap, cut it off. You won't need it. Now's the time to grab your T connector that's supplied in the kit. See how that's shaped? There's two holes right through there. One has a dead end to it, which is going to be that wire, the one with the dead end. Okay? The other one, as you can see through. The one that you can see through is going to go around the white with the red stripe wire. You see that? Don't do the blue wire because it won't work. It's got to be the white with the red tracer. Now, here is our T connector, and they're kind of finicky, so you want to stick a flathead screwdriver in there. Open this sucker up so give it a little bit of slack so we can slide it around the white with the red tracer. So let me do that. Okay, see that? See how I can move it up and down, in and out? That's how you know you got it correct in its slot. Okay, now you see the other hole. So right now I can move this around. The other hole has the dead end to it. So we're going to take the orange wire, slide it down till it reaches the dead end. It's very important to keep pressure on it so it doesn't fall out. And this crimp tool can be on either side of this plug. You can go on this side or this side. Doesn't matter as long as it's wrapped around the white with the red tracer. So I'm going to go ahead and put this down this little spot, the dead end. Make sure you can still move this around. And grab a pair of pliers. Get the white with the blue tracer out of the way so you don't pinch it. And you're going to pinch this thing down just like that. Okay? All the way down. Make sure you're still connected. And then I'm going to fold this over. See how that kind of like protects it? It locks it in so there's not exposed wires. That's what we want. Now this isn't plugged in. It's crimped in, I should say, rather than the plug that we had to cut off. The final wire we have is this ground wire. This can go to any metal surface, or you can go directly to the negative on your battery terminal. That's going to be the best case scenario, but you don't have to do that. You can go to something metal on the engine that you can bolt it to. I'm actually going to run this up to the battery. Locate your battery on a C3. It's under the seat. I'm just going to pull this cover where the bolts were already removed. On a Zuma and a Vino, you'll have the battery underneath your feet when you're riding. It's right there under the mat. So I'm looking for the negative symbol on the battery. There's a positive C over there. You want the negative. I'm just going to loosen this negative terminal on the battery. I don't need to take it off, just loosen it. And then grab your negative wire from the tuner. See how it's slotted? I can just slide it in underneath the screw or the bolt. Tighten it down. Now you can move this in such a way however you want so that the cover closes and everything's tidied up. And our tuner is wired up. I now have the beast mode tuner completely wired up, and now I want to make sure it turns on so that all my wiring is correct. So I'm going to turn the key on right now, and then I'm going to push this middle button. It should say P1. There we go. P1, if I go to the right, it says P2. If I go to the right again, nothing will happen. Go back to the left, P1. So what that means, that's your programmed tune number 1. Right now this tuner has no program anything in it, but it will. And if I go to the right, it's P2. So an example of P1, maybe you did a complete tune and this is your economic tune. You just want to save gas and that you'll keep it there. And then you go out on the weekend and you want to like hot rod it. So you'll go to your P2 hot rod tune. Once you've done that, you push the middle button and that enters it in, and you'll end up with your main screen. So if you notice, that says 005. This is the top number. This is going to be your RPMs. That's 500 RPM. So if you've got a big bore kit and it's hard starting, then you're going to adjust this 500. That's as it's cranking the starter over. 1000 is going to be starting it into your idle, and then 1500 is going to be your main idle. 1500 to 2000 is going to be your main idle, and then you can increase the fuel 1, 2, all the way up to 100, or decrease the fuel all the way down to 100. You can do that for every single RPM. So if you go to the right, 3000, 35, 4, 45, all the way to 15,000 RPM. Now, as it's running, you would say, I adjusted the 500 RPM. I'm at 8. I'll push that middle button right there, and it'll save it, and it'll go right back to where it was. Let me show you an example. Okay, you notice it was fluctuating between 11 and 12, which is 1,000 RPM. I need to adjust the 1,000 RPM because 1,000 is going to go up from the range from 1,000 to 1,500. So if it's at 1,200, that's your range because it goes in 500 RPM increments. So we're going to go up on 1,000. Let's go all the way up. Since it's a 76cc big bore kit, and our tune is at 0, so we have the 50cc tune in right now. That's not something that we want. So I'm going to go up 30. And at least we can maybe idle. I'm going to do that 1,000, 1,500, or 2,000. Now, if you had a stock bike with the stock bore, you could increase these numbers if you wanted to increase the performance. You mainly would do that from 4,000 RPM all the way up. And if it idles fine, you wouldn't really adjust that because you want the best lean tune. So I'll go ahead and start it. And then I'll push this middle button. That's going to save it. There's 3 tunes it's saving. Now it runs. So if I go, for instance, while it's running to my 1,000 and go all the way down to 0 and do the same thing at 1,500. And push enter, it's not going to run very good. See that? How that works? So I'm going to go back over to 1,500. And if you had a wideband O2 sensor to snip your exhaust, you can dial this in perfect. But in our scenario, we're just going to do this. I'll lock it in, push the middle button to save it. We're just going to do this by ear. So next thing we're going to do is we'll start to rev it up. It's not running very good at 26. It really doesn't want to rev up. So I can do the same thing. And this is how you tune it all the way through the RPM range. You push enter, the middle button, to lock it in. This top right here is your RPM. So 1900 RPM, 2000 RPM as you rev it. So while you're riding, you can see your RPM range. And I know that at around 2500 RPM, this thing does not want to really rev up. So I'm going to add more fuel at 2500 RPM. Let's bring that sucker up to 40. I just want to make sure you guys understand this. It's kind of repetitive. And then I'll save it by pushing the middle button. Just like this. So let's try to get past 25. Oh, it got past 25. Now we're in the 26 and 27 range. So go back to 25. We want to try to get it to 3 grand, so bring that one up. And once I finish doing this, we'll know that we're probably going to need to do 3,500 RPM. Okay, so go up again. Oh, there's 3. Now we got it, and so on. So that's how you would do that until the full engine is happy. Now this is a big bore engine, 76cc, so we definitely need this tuner to make this even run. Without it, it wouldn't run. With a stock bike, you're not going to need to be so dramatic. Keep in mind that the tuning that I just showed you is on the 76cc big bore kit. So where this tuner is completely necessary. If you had this tuner on a stock bike and you were just looking to remove the rev limiter, you really don't need to touch anything here. You can use this box as a tuner that you don't actually use and a rev delete. Now, another thing, if you remove this tuner, unplug it, take it out, everything goes away. This has to stay in line. This blue knob on the Beast Mode tuner gives you the ability to advance the fuel injection timing, also known as spill timing. Now this knob is more for the tuning gurus. If you don't know much about timing your engine or tuning, I would steer clear of this. Keep this at 0, that'll just keep it off. But to give you an idea, your engine is set to economy from the factory within the emissions limits. By adjusting the fuel injection timing, you can add more power to your engine, but it also can damage your engine if it's not done right. So be sure that you've done the research and you understand what you're doing if you're going to adjust this. If you keep it at 0, there's no risks, it's just turned off. But you can advance it up to 1 millisecond just with this knob. This modified 76cc C3 with the knob turned to 9 shows huge advantages. That's what that does. The final piece of the puzzle is to clean up all your wires. Zip tie them in such a way that they're not going to be leaning on something hot and they're not going to get pinched. Store the Beast Mode tuner underneath the seat so it doesn't get wet.